All right, good. So Hunter, you guys can hear me down in Alice, can you? Or John, or anyone that's online, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. So, look, welcome everybody to our very first inaugural NT branch meeting of AEVA. So it's pretty exciting to be finally getting this underway after, I guess, about 9 months of cogitation about it. So it's nice to finally get it underway. So I'd just like to quickly do a welcome to country, and I'd like to acknowledge the original custodians of the lands upon which we're meeting and pay our respects to elders past and present. And I just wanted to start off by saying that we are a small group at the moment. I think we're a total of about 30 members or approaching 30 members across the NT. So there is a real opportunity for each of us to make a difference and contribute to the both the content of these meetings and the outcomes and the actions that we agree to undertake. So I am hoping for some good participation. Please speak up. Please don't be afraid to voice your views and opinions. And if I forget something or one of us forgets something, then please speak up. This is I don't want this to be a too formal. I'd like it to keep it free flowing and interactive. So what I wanted to quickly do was to, as part of the chairman's address, is to quickly introduce the 6 committee members, all of whom are here at the moment. So, and we have had our first committee meeting. We had that in June. And actually what we agreed to do in that meeting was to have every second month we would have a committee meeting, and every other month we would have a branch meeting like this meeting, where we would invite all of our members, and we would have a meeting where we're inviting guest speakers to present and participate on interesting topics. So we've got Hunter, who's kindly agreed to give us a presentation in the back half of this meeting today. So in terms of the committee members, there's myself as the chair. We've got Joseph, who everybody knows because he's prolific on social media. So Joseph Chin's our secretary. We've got Shannon Hosking down in Alice Springs, who's our treasurer. We've got Hunter Murray, who's our vice chair, also in Alice. Sandy Sy. Sandy's not with us, is he, today?
I think he's got like first day training today. So usually Dr. John's on a Tuesday, so probably eventually we'll have the Tuesday meetings going forward.
Okay, yeah. All right. And last but not least is John Garwood, also down in Alice Springs. So as it's turned out, on the committee, we've got 3 representatives from Darwin and 3 from Alice. So it feels like a good, reasonable cross-representation, I guess, of the territory, although, in the fullness of time, it would be good to get people from other parts of the territory involved as well. And the other thing which is coming up, which I would like to mention, is that it's part of the constitution of AEVA that we have to have our annual general meeting every year between the 1st of July and the 30th of September. And as it happens, Joseph just told me Victoria just had their AGM last night, I think. So what the committee agreed to do was to have our AGM in 2 months' time. So in September, when we would normally have our next branch meeting, well, in fact, it will be a branch meeting, but we'll use the start of that meeting just to conduct an AGM and go through the, go through the formalities. We have to elect office bearers for the next 12 months. We have to appoint a director. At the moment, we've got a director who is in place from the SANT branch, amalgamated branch that was in place previously. I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name, Joseph. Who's our director at the moment?
Oh, that's
Michael. Yeah.
Joinker.
Yeah. So Michael will continue to be our director until such time as we hold our first AGM, and then that director gets the opportunity to represent the NT branch at the national meetings. That's my understanding anyway, yeah. Joseph. Yeah. So I think that covers those things. And then I just very quickly wanted to touch on some of the main priorities, I guess, or the strategic priorities that we discussed in our first committee meeting 12 months ago. So the first and foremost one, which is the one that's kind of driven us to where we're at the moment, is just networking and sharing and getting together and meeting and making sure that we're sharing each other's knowledge. But the other two or three main priorities that we wanted to focus on was growing our membership, possibly as the number one priority, because we've only got, as I said, about 30 members across the NT at the moment. So we kind of put a wet finger in the air and thought that it would be good to target 100 members by this time next year. So in other words, by the end of this current financial year, we'd like to have 100 members across the NT. So I'm not quite sure whether that's going to be ambitious or whether it's going to be easy. But the main kind of action that we attached to that objective was to get ourselves connected to the dealerships, the main dealerships in Darwin and Alice Springs, and to try to get AEVA business cards and promotional pamphlets incorporated into the starter pack that comes with every electric vehicle from the main dealerships. So we're hoping that if we do that, then at the very least, somebody with a new electric vehicle has our contact details and can reach out and hopefully connect. The next big one was, I guess, policy formulation and advocacy, particularly with the NT government and AANT. So we've got some actions to have some...
Your screen just sort of like stopped for a second.
Oh.
Sure. Can you see, is Randall's screen stopped for the moment?
Sorry, you're a bit low, Joe.
Can you hear me, Hunter?
I can hear Randall, I can't hear Joe.
That's okay, I think maybe your internet just cut out.
Okay, well, so I'm back on deck, I think.
I think he's frozen. Is he frozen on yours?
So
yeah,
the other main
strategy
was policy formulation and advocacy and meetings with the NT government and AANT. And that's all about, I guess it's a bit of a two-way street. It's about us trying to make sure that we have the opportunity as a body in the community passionate about EVs, that we have the opportunity to influence and directly give some feedback to the NT government about issues that touch on or affect electric vehicles and all of the infrastructure associated with EVs.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you hear me?
Frozen again.
I'm frozen, am I?
Yeah, everybody else is fine. It's only you that's frozen.
Can you hear
you're
me?
not frozen on mine, Randall.
Can you hear me, Shannon?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, all right, I'm going to keep talking because I'm nearly done. And the last bit was fundraising. So we need some money. We don't have any at the moment, and one of the initiatives is to get our bank account underway, and I think there'll be some seed funding from the national body, and then we need to start driving the membership to increase the funds, and that will hopefully enable us to start making some actions. Take a seat, Dan. And then the last thing, which I just wanted to quickly comment on, and I might invite Hunter to talk more about this, but I guess I was just reflecting on, I guess, what I've seen happen in the last 12 to 18 months since I got back up here in Darwin, especially around EVs. And it has been quite phenomenal, really, to see the number of charging stations that are now up and running on the Stuart Highway between, obviously between Darwin and Alice and Adelaide. So I think we've seen Adelaide River, which just came on board a few days ago, last week, and Catherine. Three Ways, I think, is now running, Tennant Creek, Alice Springs, and Earl Dunbar. And I can remember 18...
3 Ways is Tennant Creek. People keep talking about Tennant Creek, but it's 3 Ways.
What?
Two separate entities.
I know it's at 3 Ways, but it wasn't actually turned on when I went past there about a month ago.
Yeah, it is now.
Oh, it's not. There's not another one at Tennant.
No.
Oh, I thought there was. Okay. Anyway, I just think it's fantastic because 18 months ago there was none of that was there. You know, you could drive the whole length of the Stuart Highway, and to my knowledge, there wasn't one charging station available. And so it is.
The charging station is Mount Isa.
Ah, well, that's not on the Stuart Highway, but I guess it's on the...
From here it was the closest.
Yeah. Anyway, that was my reflection, I guess, on the progress that I've seen, I suppose, in the last 18 months since I've been up in Darwin.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that.
My chair's report. Hunter, can I invite you to just maybe comment on that?
Well, actually, it's a little bit part of my report, so if I can reserve that comment for when I go through stuff, I'll report on to detail.
Cool. All right, we'll stand by and get the full briefing then. So I did want to invite the two other office bearers that we have as part of our committee to to speak to the meeting or make a contribution. So perhaps Joseph, if you'd like to introduce yourself as the secretary and make any comments you want to.
All good. Yeah, cheers. Thank you, Randall, for the floor there. So you can hear me everything loud and clear, everybody? So excellent. No worries. So thanks very much, everybody, for joining today. I can see there's 10 participants at the moment on Zoom, which is great to see. And like there's about almost like a half a dozen people in Darwin and Randall's house at the moment, which is great. So excellent. So yeah, just a bit about like myself is like just pretty much the secretary role. So if you've got any like come to myself with any suggestions, anything you want to do, like you've got like any gripes or grizzles as such, if you had issues with like somebody like need help or anything like that, or just want to know in EV in general, I'm pretty much going to just put some of that stuff out there in the social media aspects of things and just try to get everybody involved as such. And as such, we'll try to like grow the numbers with Randall as such, as going towards thinking what to do, how to grow AEVA and non-territory and build it and that way. Bit about what how I joined initially was Hunter Murray and Richard Smith approached me back in 2018 and wanted to do something back then, and they kept saying to me like, oh, we could do a group as such. Financially back then I wasn't able to do something then, but I really appreciate both those guys reaching out to me and like trying to get me involved as such, because I was in the solar power industry back then, selling solar. So just that and pretty much when I did solar hand in hand, when I learned about solar, I learned about electric vehicles, and which got me involved with AEVA back in 2015. So I was actually quite quite open with the forum and everything, and I tried to like chit chat with a few of the members there. So Back then I was chatting with Dr. Chris Jones and a few other people there, giving me advice what to buy as an EV and such sort of thing. Yep, I've got Noddy here on my left, and I've got Dan here on my right as such. They're both around us house. These guys have been great in terms of like, helping build up AEVA and spreading the message and stuff, especially with Noddy going down 3-ways and going to Catherine the other day, testing out the fast chargers and that sort of thing. I really appreciate Richard Smith and you and Grigoro was there the other day doing some testing in Adelaide River as such, and and Hunter doing a great job with testing 3-ways out, and also Alice Springs as well. I'm not too sure if Alice Springs is up running yet as such. It's all good in Alice Springs now. Yep, that's great. That's good to hear. And it's interesting how everything's forming up and anything as such. But if you guys wanted to reach out about anything, or you got any people that's like want to join AEVA or want to know a bit about what's the benefits of like joining, that's pretty much just come and ask me, and I'm be happy to like join and stuff, kind of thing. So yeah, join them up accordingly. So beautiful. Randy, if you want to like send it over to Shannon to have a few words. Yep. Yeah, so you can start. I'll just do myself, Shannon. You can, if you're ready, you can chat about what you want to chat.
Yeah, sure. No worries. All right. Well, obviously, I'm Shannon. I will be the treasurer for the NT group. So I've been in contact over the last couple of weeks with a few of the other treasurers, and also Michael, the national treasurer. Only a couple of days ago, I've actually went into the branch and got all the paperwork ready to start our account up. So obviously there'll be myself, and old Brandel, and I'm guessing probably Joe will be a third signatory. I can have up to 6 people on the list. But just wanted to know, between Joe and Randall, which Bendigo branch is the best for both of you to attend?
Yeah, I agree. Bendigo Bank's fine. Randall's just unmuting himself at the moment.
He's asking which branch would be the closest for you guys.
I think Bendigo Bank is the one in in Nightcliff. There's one.
Well,
there.
there's actually 3 in Darwin.
Yep. Okay, I think.
Sorry, Shannon. I didn't realise I had to have my computer going. All right, everyone.
That's okay, mate. No issue there.
Yeah. So I think Nightcliff will be fine. I see the Bendigo Bank in Nightcliff there.
The Nightcliff? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's right. It's just I'll have to get you both to go in there with your IDs and actually do a signatory sign for the account.
Oh, yep.
So I just needed to know which branch to send it to.
Yeah. Nightcliff's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I'll get them to send it to that one. Cool. Yeah, then we can, after we've got that all done, we can obviously get all of our accounts tied up to the national Xero account. And then obviously we can start getting our initial seed money. And then we can start getting some fun stuff, I guess, to start doing some public appearances. I guess that's about all I've got at the moment until we get everything up and running.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep, beautiful. So I'm just gonna maybe get
Joseph, actually, sorry, can I just say one more thing? Can you just mute yourself for a second? Sorry, I just realised, everyone, that I forgot to say one important thing, which was we did also talk about a launch event to publicise the formulation of the NT branch in its own right. And we agreed that we would do that after our first, so we'll have the AGM in September, and then we'll try and have a launch function, I think, in sometime in October, November or December. We're not sure the exact date yet, but we kind of need to get our feet under the table. We need to get our bank accounts sort of sorted out. We need to get our AGM sorted out, appoint our our office bearers and our director for the next 12 months. And then we will have a proper event. We're not quite sure how that will unfold, whether it'll be a single event or two events, you know, one in Alice and one in Darwin. We haven't discussed that yet as a committee. That's on our agenda for our next meeting in August. But that's pretty exciting. I think, you know, once we go public and get an actual, you know, public event happening, and, you know, hopefully that will help to drive those 3 or 4 strategic objectives that I mentioned before. All right. So shall I hand back to you, Joseph?
Yeah, so I was going to say, it's just like, I was going to get like Jay's coach to probably jump on your computer and just to chat about the Tesla Light Show he's organising, just to like, probably some of you guys probably saw on Facebook already what he's trying to do, and just connecting up with WhatsApp as such, and just give a bit of just a talk about his. I was quite impressed with how many people so far. He's got like 1,500 people wanted to like go to the light show down at the waterfront in August, which is great. I think hopefully have about 30. Yeah, that's right.
Tell us all about it. It's Jason, right?
Yeah, no, lovely to meet you guys, and thanks for inviting me along. So I started the just a Facebook event to organise a Tesla light show. So for those who aren't familiar, Teslas can sync through their GPS clocks, and they do light shows and dance. So yeah, I decided that I'd set up this event and see sort of how much interest we get in it, and it's as Joseph mentioned, it's kind of exploded on Facebook. There's about 1,500 that are interested. We've got about 25 cars of people that are going to attend. Actually, just met another fellow tonight, so it's probably another one. So it's just I think it's good awareness for electric vehicles and what they're capable of, and I think it's a pretty good event to sort of get in front of the public who may not be familiar with electric vehicles or seen them up close.
Does the Star Wars night May 4th, that have any bearing on this one?
No, so some of those people because that was organised through Tesla Owners Australia. Okay. They're supportive of it as well. They're going to advertise it on their calendar. Been speaking to Richard about that. And it'll be similar, but different tracks that you play. And being at the waterfront, they also reached out to me and interested to support the event. So they may do some promotional stuff for us as well. And being at Darwin Festival time and near Festival Park, we might get some people wandering down from there.
Which date is it, Jason?
It's Saturday, 17th of August.
Right. And would I don't know whether I should be asking this or not. I don't mean to crash your event.
No.
But if we had an AEVA banner down there, would that upset you at all? Or not?
No. I think anything that we can do to support electric vehicles and promote the territory as well. I think it's good. Yeah,
I think it's such it's an amazing event that you've organised. It would be a shame if we couldn't kind of piggyback off your effort.
No, for sure. Happy to if you want to put some banners or have some information stall or something set up down there. I think it'd be good way to support the.
So do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a good idea having some sort of like not particularly marquee as such, but
just a table and just a vertical banner and just
just some little banner and that sort of stuff. I just wanted to see if we can get maybe something from the other AEVAs if we can't get something up right now, kind of thing. Maybe someone's got like a second-hand like banner or something we can just grab and send up. We can use for the time being. We can always send it back down again if they want it, kind of thing. So excellent. No worries. Yep. Did you have anything else that you want to add there, Jace, to the event as such, or you wanted to?
No, I mean, if anyone's got wants any information, please available.
I think too many people are muted. Randall, can you unmute?
Yeah. Oh, Randall, can you unmute? Can you unmute for a moment? I think you're mute yourself. Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. So yeah, just Toka supported it, and they're going to advertise it on their calendar, but it's not a Toka event as such.
Yeah.
Well, we've been promoting it through our network as well.
Yeah.
We
because
can put
we
something
think
on
it's
our
a,
website too. That way, it's just an event that we can organise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, because like Tasmania, for example, they just do meet and greets every now and then just to get people down for anything. You know?
Yeah.
So that's an example. So yeah, that's fine because that's the way to grow the awareness for electric vehicles as such.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even the public, come down and talk to owners. Like, I think there's electric vehicles, unless people have seen them or bought them, they don't know. Most common question we probably all get is, how do you charge it and how far do you go? So yeah, I think sort of squashing that's not really a problem anymore. Sort of helps open that market up for EV owners.
yeah.
And the more that we get in the territory, obviously the better charging infrastructure and that we'll get as well.
Yeah, well, Hunter will touch on it, I think, when he gets to his talk, but there's been some really great progress with charging stations in the territory in the last 12 months or so. So hopefully it's just the kind of the thin edge of the wedge, and it'll just continue to grow.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. No, thanks very much there, Jace. Appreciate that. Excellent. Yeah, so I think it's probably time for Hunter's itching his toes to chat about what his time is over in AEVA and his history about what he's done in Alice Springs as such. Yeah, when you're ready there, Hunter.
Yep, I'm just going to share my screen. So while I do that, so basically I've tried to come up with a pretty good story, but I had to probably put 3 or 4 together because there's a lot of history. Since I've come on, I came on with AEVA about 2018. Actually, probably would have been 2017, sorry. Now, let's just see what's going on here. I've got to share here. Screen 2. Maybe that one. Pardon me. Now, what do you guys see? Hang on. You're sharing the screen. Here we go. I'll try and make it big for us. No, it's not going to work. Wrong screen. Wrong screen. And bear with me. Why doesn't that want to go? There we go. It's not screen sharing. Oh yeah, you can see it there, can't you? Yep. That one. Right. So I've just shown my inability to run with PowerPoint and Zoom. So let's see if I can get through the rest of it. So yeah, thanks guys for having us. I tried to sort of pitch this little talk because I know there's a lot of oldies and a lot of newbies here. So I wanted to try and keep it fairly exciting, but give you a little bit of brief history. So this is both and there's a lot of variants too, because it's not all about just the cars, as you guys know. It's a bit about well, it's a lot about the charging network. It's also a lot about how what that charging network uses in the fact of trying to get off wean off our dinosaur juice and go to renewables. And it's also about having some interesting ideas, because in the territory here, the Northern Territory that is, because Pete's from the other territory, we have a few challenges, one being the lack of grid, and so I wanted to discuss that too. So thanks to Charles Gregory from Tassie and Ewan Parsons for some content that I'm going to use. Let's get started. Let's see if I can just use my arrows here. No, maybe not. Oop, is it going to go? Does that change? No, it's not going to change. Of course it's not going to change. Hang on. This one. There you go. Got it. So, yeah, mouse dies. So, really, I just want to go through on quickly what new vehicles are coming up, hopefully in the next 12 months. How China's going to swamp our markets. Charger growth since 2018, and that's what Randall was asking me about. Then finally onto some newer stuff with virtual grids and e-mobility, and my little, I guess, challenge to us all. We have no grid, so can we make V to X, which is V to everything, mandatory? So let's go on to just quickly talking about some cars or some trucks. as we're all excited about. This is probably fairly the biggest news that's coming out lately. But there is a lot more, but these ones, I guess, are the interesting ones at this stage, where you've got your F-150, your Rivian, your GME. So you got your Fords and General Motors. You got your Tesla Cybertruck, and the Rivian's the new guys on the block. We've got, just real quickly, Cybertruck, which, let me just move this because I can't even read what I'm talking about. There we go, put you over there. Hopefully somewhere between 70 and 160,000 in Australia. Depending on that price, we'll give you the range between 400 and 700. About 800 horsepower, with a minimum of 120 kilowatt hour battery. Should be towing at about 6.3 tons. And if you've got some aero towing and not square box towing, we should just see a reduction by about 20 or 30%. There is one or two Cybertrucks in Australia at the moment on show. They are left-hand drives, so people are showing them off. I know they're not taking orders anymore, but I still have my order, so I'm happy. Rivian, I did have an order on for this one, but they have no hint of doing a right-hand drive at the moment. However, still worth looking. I think they will come to the market because there's a lot of POMs, Englishmen, working for them, so hopefully they will come to their senses. Again, around about the 110 to 150,000 mark, similar ranges. These are, at the moment, there's some new models of these out that will be 2-motor 4-wheel drive, but currently they're 4-motor 4-wheel drive, so individual motor per wheel. So basically about 200 horsepower per wheel. Again, 5-ton towing, same aero. The Hummer is just a beast, and they've done a Silverado, which has got a 200 kilowatt hour pack as well. They're looking at 800 to 1,000 kilometres range with that Silverado. The Hummer is about 800 only. A bit low on the ton towage, funnily, but yep, aero again for the towing. And of course the F-150. Big thing about this guy is the vehicle to H, or vehicle to home charging. They have about 10 or 12 kilowatts. I think I did talk about that here. 9 kilowatts on V to H. So this thing can be the real worksite type thing where you've got your tools all in it, just running a work site without anything else, no generators, no nothing. So that's kind of the bonus with this one. Cybertruck does a similar output. They all kind of have power outputs, but this guy seems to be about the best. Is that hissing to you? No, you didn't hear a hiss then? That's a bit weird. Just when I change pages, it decides to hiss. So here's all the other brands of EVs that are around the world. Just to give you a hint of the way the market's going, because it ain't slowing down. And with, I guess I wanted to mention with the way that America is putting 100% tariffs on the Chinese product, we're going to see a lot of stuff flooding our market. So I reckon this is a good thing, the way the US is handling it. So we want to see that happen. It'll be certainly in our interest. We're still the poor cousin being a right-hand drive market, but I would expect that we're actually going to see, and we are already seeing the BYDs and stuff like that coming here first. So it's interesting times when it actually comes to the car market. But so always, Ewan got me onto this one too. Tony Seba, I don't know if you know that name, but certainly worth catching up with. He's actually an ex-CEO from Cisco, very much the big predictor in coming up times. He's been working on globalization of renewables and cars for over probably 20 years now, since the turn of the century at least. And this is his latest prediction. It's called an S-curve or an X-curve, because we're seeing a decline in one product and going up in another. And he's predicting now that we'll probably reach equal sales of EVs versus ICE vehicles as early as 2026 and as late as 2028. We're here at the moment at about 20% globally. And yes, it's interesting times. Hopefully, he's been predicting the market's going to be going a lot faster than you might see in the mainstream or the media, so to speak. So I'm pretty excited about how this is actually moving on, the way this curve's producing. So yes, and looking at the decline in sales of ICE vehicles, you can see it's following it pretty well. So up there around in the red. So just a couple of brief points about those things. The F-150 can back up a house for 3 days or 10 days camping. The range is getting better, especially with the battery tech. And I'll talk a little bit. Oh yeah, I've got some costing there of the way the batteries are going. To give you an idea, in 2012, a kilowatt hour was $1,200 to buy. Pretty well raw battery. That was in the AEVAs and stuff like that. That's why they were a $55,000 car in their day. 10 years later, $120 for a kilowatt hour. And 2024, right now we're at about $60 a kilowatt hour. So we're 20 times cheaper in 12 years than we were. And in the last 2 years, we've dropped half again in the way of, and this is lithium type batteries, of course. So what's going to happen in another 10 years? Well, that's a pretty good question mark. Just to give you a relative price of charging costs, if anyone asks, if you've got a 100 kilowatt hour battery, 30 cents a kilowatt hour, which is roughly what we pay here in the territory, that's about $30. If you've got, then they'll give you about 500 k's range. To give you an idea for internal combustion equivalent, over $100 to go 500 kilometres, assuming $2 a litre at about $10 per 100 kilometres, 10 litres per 100 kilometres. So if we had a 200 kilowatt hour battery like those big trucks have, it's about $60 to fill it, and that'll give you about 900 k's range, or about 600 k's range if we have aero towing. Okay. Again, aero towing reduces your range by about 20 to 30%. If you had a box trailer, though, it's more like 45 to 50%. Okay. So where and how do we charge at the moment? Well, good thing is electric trucks are going to be huge, big batteries on wheels. And in fact, we've all got batteries on wheels. But at the moment around the world, we have 3 defined levels of EV charging. Level 1 being just slow 10 amps, and I'm sorry if I'm boring you guys that have already heard this, but there's new guys in the room, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So yeah, at about 10 kilometers an hour, or a little bit less, is the way 10 amps would charge you. And the average commute being about 35 kilometers a day, so 4 hours of level 1 charging every night, maybe 5 hours or overnight charging would be enough just to do your daily commute. And it also makes your house the refueling station, so it's really convenient. Don't have to see fuel stations anymore. Try and look for those stations. You just top up every night. Level 2 is 15 amp right up to 50 amp 3-phase, aka basically destination charges, or 3-phase if you've got it at home or at a shop. And that can get you up to about 120 kilometers an hour at the top end. This is charging speed, of course. So at this stage, the caravan parks have been the easiest to charge at, but obviously we're looking for bigger and brighter things. So you just basically have one cost overnight, but we're always hungry for more energy. So even at a 15 amp charger, you probably still wouldn't get a full charge. You still need about 20 hours to do that. So now restaurants and shopping centres have become the target place for destination chargers. So you can work or eat while you charge up. And then finally we've got the level 3, or DC charging as it's more known. And that's anywhere up, well, it could be 20 kilowatts really, to 500 kilowatts. And I've seen lately they've been releasing some 1,000 kilowatt stuff in the States. So then these go in like at fuel stations and roadside spots near the highways and stuff, just like you'd see a fuel station. So between 10 minutes and an hour, you can get 500 k's range. But really, what is the range? It's usually down to your bladder. Being us for us old blokes, you got to pull up every couple of hours, otherwise it's not going to happen. So really, it's about convenience as well as thing. And the lovely thing about fast charging and any of that charging, you don't have to stand there and watch it fill. You can obviously go and do other things. So I will just quickly pause because I've given you a fair bit of information. Is there any questions at this point? We're about halfway through. No, fairly quiet. Good. Okay, we'll keep going. Unless you got a question. And Johnny's looking at me funny.
Okay.
No, you can speak.
Hang on. So
one possible.
It's all right.
Maybe I'll just move over to his mic rather than.
Yep, that's all right.
One possible avenue that we as AEVA should possibly be looking at in terms of the lobby space is as you've already seen, we've got extended towing beyond 3.5 tonnes. At present, on your C-Class licence, we are limited to 3.5 tonnes. You want more than that, you're going to have to register these cars as LTs.
I think you can go to 5. But anyway, it's 4.5 tonnes is the actual GVM, isn't it?
No, it's GCM.
GCM.
Bones,
Sorry.
towing weight. So 4.5 is our GVM, but our towing is limited to 3.5 braked.
Right.
So there is room for us as AEVA NT to put pressure on our government, be that federal or state, that actually we want expansion so that we can make the most out of this. But this is an exciting new world where I guarantee if you weighed 90% of caravans that are currently rolling around territory roads, you'd find they're overweight. But unlike the way that they're currently being hauled, we are very much seeing that there is the braking capacity to deal with this weight. So that's exciting, even if it is illegal. But yeah, just in terms of us as AEVA, I want to encourage us to remember that we are a lobby group, and as we see greater capacity, there is space for us to be active within the political space to say, well, hang on, we made these rules 30 years ago when we were, impressed with hydraulic braking. Regen's 40 times better, or whatever it is. We need to adjust our laws to reflect
We'll need some
this.
stats for that. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Anyway,
Okay,
sorry.
that was more of a comment than a question, but that's great because I don't really like answering questions. All right, so let's quickly have a look through the history of charging around Australia. Unless there's any other questions, no, it's all good.
Can you hear me?
Say again.
It's Randall. Just a quick
Yep.
one. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think it's connected to what John was saying, actually. But you mentioned aero towing. Does that just mean like an aerodynamic
Correct.
van? Does it?
Yeah. So we're looking at different designs of trailers, and like your old streamline type caravans. Something that's not so boxy to help the efficiency of the whole situation, because efficiency is king when it comes to electrics.
Cars on vehicle trailers versus boxes.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep.
So quick history of the way the charging's gone, and it's gone really quick. So you can see here's a map of when the Queensland charger network went out, and there's a few there. I think there's some Tesla stuff amongst it. Perth had a bit going. So again, this is just to quickly give you a map through. So 2021, 3 years later, you can see in New South Wales, and that started to get thing. There's one little dot there, Randall, right in Alice Springs. You might want to notice, and one up in Darwin. And, we did have them back a little while, and so that was a couple of guys. What's the guys in Darwin? The electrical shop. Middies, that's right. So Middies had one and we had one here. And even though it wasn't like on the beaten path, we found that a lot of the local taxi guys and private hire guys wanted to use them more and more. So that was actually more of our people that would use it. Then ended 21, and then basically these were the Arena, I don't think I've spelled that right, Arena Stage 1, where you guys had your 3 chargers put in up there for EV, or it was certainly proposed, believe it or not. So end of 21, 22, so it's been there a few years already, those guys, I think, from memory, or they were rolling out then. And then you got, get on the right page. We also had Future Fuels and QS Stage 3, so the Stage 3 stuff come in for Queensland. Future Fuels, let's just have a look. Oh yeah, that was that one there for Queensland mainly. We had Victoria come online with a heap of those. Smart Charge Tasmania with Charles Gregory and what do I forget his name? I should do, but our guys in AVA, Pete knows him. And Australian Electric Highway, or SA Electric Highway, so they started rolling out, starting there at 2021, but they've actually 2022-23 got into it, and the WA Electric Highway up the west coast, as you can see there. So, and we had obviously the biofuel sites roll out, and Northern Territory government did an infill here across the way as well, I think with Eureka. So getting towards the end of 2024. What about us rural centres? So they did pretty well up the west coast. But the Northern Territory, what sort of happened with us? Well, a lot of this has been put in privately and pushed by AEVA. Let's just zoom in a bit and show you. So we have currently here in the Territory 5 sites on the Stewart, which is NRMA, rolling out from 35 kilowatts to 150 kilowatts. That was ARENA version 2, supplementary by that, or paid for. The 3 EV sites, of course, up in Darwin Metro from the ARENA version 1 rollout, and the demo solar sites, which I mentioned. NT government has announced EV and PHEV incentives, being the free rego and $1,000 or $2,000 worth of money to destination charges or home charges, and but not much towards having fast chargers rolled out at this stage. Would have been like to have Richard Smith here maybe to comment on that, but that's okay. He might come up with us soon. What else have I got here? Seems so yeah, this is the $1,500. No register. Oh, $1,500 against stamp duty as well. That's one of their benefits. So again, this is for people who don't know. Most people here have got a car and have obviously got all this, but just in case you're looking at a car, there is some benefits in the Territory. But yeah, no funds or state or anything else from except for federal funds for fast charging. So what about rural SA, NT and WA? Well, I've got some ideas for strategies, and we've been working on them slowly as Outback EV can afford them, and others. But basically using the existing 22 kilowatt system that AVA rolled out over the last few years to use that as a for DC mounted chargers. So then, not so bad for the Teslas and stuff like that. But if you've got cars that only have 7 kilowatts on board, that'll actually upgrade them to get 22 to 30 kilowatt charging. There is obviously some costs to do that, just to get traffic data, but that actually gives us some data that we can actually use to predict how more upgrades that we'll need in the future. Most of the time it takes 1 or 2 persons to install one of these units. We're going to be reusing the sockets, so technically there's no sparky needed. Still leaves issues of vandalism. So, I mean, in this case, you might see it, but there's actually a little hidden camera up there to keep an eye on the site. So, just in case it gets any trouble. But, and thanks, Noddy, for the shot of your car there. That's Noddy's car. So once the bigger NRMA infrastructure comes along, we can then relocate these smaller units to where they're needed better. Or if they've been there long enough, we can retire them maybe into a community or something like that, where our locals can use them to their death. So really it's kind of having a stepping stone there, as well as the solar plants, like these guys. Again, having these ones roll out, these are obviously $250,000 to $500,000 plants, these things. So, they're a bit more to invest, where the other ones are really about a $20,000 solution. So these guys are interesting because they can be mass produced back in the cities, deployed out on a truck, and then pretty well set up and go. I would kind of like to see the genset not installed in these things and just have an umbilical run over to the roadhouse if they're in the roadhouse. So we're actually not producing more diesel gensets to add. We can reuse or use our existing plant that's out there if there's cloudy days and stuff like that. But these guys have been using gensets. They want them to be totally standalone at this stage. And then same idea. Once we get a bit better power system out to these roadhouses, we can then retire these things or move them around even to urban centres where a site could be commissioned. I don't know if you guys know, but it takes about 18 months to commission a site, to get all the paperwork together, to get all the planning, the electricity done. So with these types of systems, we could actually plant this in where a site's predicted to go, have some sort of turnover, have some sort of data, and then slowly build up the site. So these are, I really like these ideas, this type of thing. But we'll get there sooner or later. There's one here down here at Aldunda, and there's one on where's the one on the
it's on the Nullarbor somewhere.
Yeah, Nullarbor, that's it. Thanks, buddy. Don't know why I had a brain fart then, but there you go. Oh, no, we saw that one. Oh, this is okay. So I guess that's all I really wanted to cover with the charging side of things. However, what I wanted to I guess plant in your minds, and again, some people may have heard of Vita X or Vita G or these little acronyms, basically vehicle to grid or vehicle to everything. So I kind of really wanted to go through that and plant a seed. So at the moment, these are all the vehicles that actually have a vehicle to grid or vehicle to H, a vehicle to home or a vehicle to load facilities. So it's quite interesting that many are out there. Tesla is a little bit of a grey nurse because they can do it. They actually did do it with their Roadster, but they haven't instigated it in the software since. Now, saying that though, there's some stuff that's coming up that's going to force their hand again, which is good. And us, the local, I guess, engineers have also been doing mods to give us power out onto that type of vehicle as well. But yeah, it's a really good list already. So just to quickly get you guys, whoever feels like the geeks, to have a look here. But this in essence is what we've got. So if we have kind of two ways to get energy out of the vehicle besides driving it. There's a Vita G, which is your DC output, goes through some sort of inverter, gets synced up with the grid, goes out to the grid. But what we and that's fairly expensive. These units are up to tens of thousands of dollars. But what we want to reuse is actually this inbuilt bidirectional OBC, which is basically an inbuilt inverter. Come out on the AC path and have a lower valued, as in kilowatt, maybe 2.5 to 10 kilowatt AC output instead of maybe 100 kilowatts of DC, and have that go to our domestic panels. And right at the last minute, if there's any extra, it would go out to the grid. But that's what they call Vita H. So it's more using it for ourselves, or more using it for maybe a commercial grid, not a full-size grid. So, and as you can see here, hopefully in the future we'll have bidirectional inductive charging as well. The idea there is to make it totally plug and play and pull up to the car and obviously make it real easy. But at this stage, we're looking at a plug type solution. So obviously you got power in, power out. It can go both ways depending on what the grid or what your loading is looking for in your house. Not necessarily always automated, but the more expensive it is, the more automated it is. So I hope that makes sense. So we could talk about, what about virtual grids? So the types of things that the reasons we're going to do this is obviously sustainability. EVs can use to be charged renewable energy sources like wind and solar, from wind and solar, and then making more sustainable, environmentally friendly options for transportation. And then using the EV battery to power your home as well as local batteries like that. You can further reduce your carbon footprint. So the versatility though, we could have Vita H, Vita L technologies, home and load, where the EVs could be used more than just transportation. We could rock up to an emergency site or rock up camping and use it for that type of thing. And I guess you guys all know about that sort of stuff, so I'm preaching to the converted here. But when we have no grid, what can we use it for? Well, in an energy security, so we can keep the lights on if we have power outages, natural outages, and again we can actually have control over our own energy needs by having the storage within our own realms and not depend totally on the utilities and unreliable grids. So a thing about being that is swap batteries. Have a look here at the Janus truck. Huge big battery there that gets swapped out when it gets flat, slowly charges under solar or grid, and then can get quickly changed over. I think these guys basically just use forklifts at the moment, but it could be automated. And what about other things? So this is where I think I mentioned before about Tesla changing their minds soon. Back in May 2023, California legislature advised advanced a SB 233 in the US. So they basically figured out if they've got 14 million cars currently registered in their state with 75 kilowatt hours, that could give just over a terawatt hour of battery. So they're evaluating a mandate requiring that all electric vehicles to have vehicle to everything, or vehicle to E, or vehicle to X is what we call it, by January 1st, 2027. The state defines V to E as a system where the battery stored energy can be used for various purposes, not just the car. So including powering homes, buildings, microgrids, other vehicles. So a really good example, or actually I'll mention this first. So the level 2 cars can have an output of 3 to say 19.2 kilowatts, as seen in the Ford Lightning, which I thought was a bit less than that, but that's all right. I'll better figure out my figures later. If the cars average 10 kilowatt, it'll take 1 to 2 million EVs to generate 10 to 20 kilowatts of electricity. Now I know there's a lot of figures. If you're falling asleep at this point, I can understand. Like Johnny's. But it does make a big notch out of the grid. So this is why they're looking at it. So here's an example of the school buses. Let me just give you a bit more down to earth and get off the figures a little bit. But if you've got any school pretty well on the planet has a set of school buses, right? Most of them do anyway. And that school bus basically gets used for about an hour and a half every night, an hour and a half every morning. And it basically picks up the kids to school and drops them off, and then they sit there all day. So if these were electric and vehicle to grid type situation, that school could be a centralized solar generator plant as well, because they have heaps of rooftop. Those buses could be charging during the day and actually run the school during the night at minimal load, and then still have enough energy morning and night to go and pick up those kids. So you could virtually run that fleet of buses with zero cost after the solar is in. But then more so, those buses, if we had an emergency situation, that bus could be rolled out to an emergency site and have energy to use for medical purposes, for housing, that type of stuff too. So it's just about reusing or rethinking what we could be doing with that. And that's, I guess, a fairly logical project, but we could be doing our own projects as well. So here's where my challenge comes in to the AEVA NT branch, and if we choose to accept it, as you would, we want to push that the legislation for the Northern Territory is to mandate a new BEV and PHEV car sales to have V to X capabilities, and to push older vehicles to be safely converted to provide at least level 1 V to L capabilities. What that means, okay, so as most car dwellers, as I mentioned, they're probably usually between 80 to 95% of the time. Cars are off the road, not doing anything. Their average commute is 35 kilometres, but they'll be by having a battery capacity of like 50 to 75 kilowatt hours. They're virtually really touching maybe 10% of that on a daily commute. So why not use that capacity to make it available for, say, grid infrastructure as the first instance. We've also heard about virtual power plants as well, trying to involve it in that, hence future grid. But more so too, we could have a register that access to provides help for emergency power, say for instance. Apparently Darwin is a little bit prone to having the odd hurricane come through. Power goes down, say for instance, I'm just throwing it out there. We've had a hurricane here too. It was a cyclone. Cyclone. Get the right terminology. Turns the other way. Makes a big difference. But you know, we need to provide power for those people, even if it's just for keeping the lights on and keeping the fridges on, keeping our food good. So the plan would be to incentivize buyers to buy that bi-directional equipment as well, not just charging equipment. So it is, at the end of the day, it's also going to give a smooth transition over to renewables for the NT goals. So the only answer is one, to provide an easier transition to renewables and the resources for more than one purpose. So yep, great to have a car that goes super fast and really efficient and costs much to do, but it could also be used for other things, and I think that's what efficiency is all about. Yeah, so that is me. I wonder if there's any more questions. And you've all gone to sleep.
Thanks, Hunter. No, it was very informative. In fact, we were having a bit of a well, there was a little bit of conversation in the background, obviously, as well. So no, I think it was very engaging. Thank you. Does anyone want to ask any questions?
Probably one we had. In regards to vehicle load, are there setups available for most electric vehicles on the market at the moment, i.e. new ones? We're echoing a bit, sorry.
Yeah, so to get back to, let me show you the screen.
New EQB, for instance, Mercedes offering of the medium-sized SUV. I'm not entirely sure if the vehicle comes with the capability to have vehicles load if it was actually allowed. Is that something that can be retrofitted or?
So I don't know, can you see that screen? Can you see that screen? Yeah. So that screen shows us all the brands that are least vehicle to load at the moment. Not all of them produce AC straight out of the port. They may need to go via DC or an inverter. So really the difference between vehicle to load and vehicle to grid is one car will put out AC, one car will put out DC, if that makes sense. So that's why I guess I racked this list up straight away to try and give you an idea. If we really want to push the brands or have a recommended brand from AEVA to have vehicle to load, we need to tidy up this list a little bit better. But obviously the big boys here being BYD and Tesla, they need to tidy up their game too and actually make it available as well, which I believe they're doing. I mean, BYD is very good.
BYD is available.
Yeah, that's right. They usually come with their 15 amp socket, don't they, Shannon?
Well, I actually didn't get one, and I'm actually struggling to find one with an Australian outlet on it.
Yeah, so they're actually not hard to make because Ewan and I guess reversed engineered one really quickly one day, and they're basically just a 2K2 resistor across an output, and that generates your 15 amps single phase, so 3600 watts.
Interested, but
yep, and like Pete said, Hyundai and Kia are actually providing them as well now.
Yeah. So becoming very popular very quickly, and of course there's products on the market now. I mean, believe it or not, the humble old generator switch on the house is very much the easiest way to make this thing work for people. So we could use that, but we're working on making that a little bit more automated. So there is some like electronic control over when you need that power and when you don't. You still need to plug it in every night, of course, but we want to see that to be almost carefree. But I think people still need to be aware of what their energy turnover is and the energy use. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, that covers it. That's fine.
Thanks, mate.
Yep.
But Hunter, just for my clarification, I guess we can't. I didn't think we could do V2H at the moment because we were waiting for some Australian legislation to be.
So that's happening pretty quickly.
I might be able to come in here.
Ewan will probably fill that in.
Okay. Yes, look, I do work in this area and we do make these things. And yes, the legislation is changing. All the standards are changing. At the moment, you can use it under the AS 3010 standard, which is a standard for portable generators. on the basis that the car is a portable generator with the vehicle to load. So that comes in as an isolated generator, and you can power circuits. So you make sure that none of those circuits get into the grid. So this is definitely not vehicle to grid, it's vehicle to home. And you're just powering a limited circuits of your lighting, your kitchen circuit, and one other circuit, which might be an air conditioner, a pool pump, or a hot water heat pump, something like that, small air conditioner. And you can run those all night. The vehicle to load, vehicle to home is really to be seen as low power under 20 amps, and it doesn't require the involvement of NT power and water because it's behind the meter, it's under 20 amps, and none of the electrons from the car get into the grid because the transfer switch breaks from the grid and then makes to the vehicle, or they're made directly to the circuits, and when the car runs out, it just drops back to the grid.
Right. Excellent.
And by the way, to answer your question more specifically, those parts of 3010 have now gone into AS 4777, which is the standard for grid connected solar, and it's got the same circuits in there. And so you can, under the new standard, you'll be able to do vehicle to home.
Right.
Thank you.
But for the general layperson, when do you think this capability will be commercialized? I guess, is that the right word to use? Like at the moment, you know, it's a very technical, bespoke solution, or at least that's the way it seems. And I think Hunter was talking about, you know, V2X happening in 2027. Is it? So are we looking at 2027 before we can buy vehicles, you know, off the car manufacturers and have a commercial solution?
Okay, so that was California trying to push it to 2027.
Right.
What we want to try and do is, well, go faster than that. So vehicle to X probably does exist now. Not vehicle to X truly would be both AC and DC outputs. All right, that's the way I would see it. You would agree. What we want to do is the DC side is a bit of the high road. You're going to need a lot of equipment. You're going to need an inverter in your house. I think a bit like your setup there.
Protocols.
Yeah, and different protocols. You want the same?
Well, the big problem with vehicle to grid is everybody agreeing on the protocols, because the car has to talk to the inverter, which has to talk to the smart meter, and the smart meter has to talk to power and water. And to get all those parties to agree is like mission impossible. And it's going to take 2 years to sort that out.
Yeah.
Whereas vehicle to load, converting the AC vehicle to load to vehicle to home requires no protocols, but it's under 20 amps.
Yeah, that's a limitation. So I guess like what Ewan was saying, there's a bit of a high road and there's a bit of a low road. And I guess if we take the low road, we could get there faster. Does that make sense?
Sorry, can I put it in another way as a layperson? So, Hunter, you know roughly the setup that I've got here, and we're thinking about buying another EV, but we're holding off buying a second EV because we want to have vehicle to V2H capability, basically.
Yep.
I want to be able to run this house when there's a hurricane in Darwin.
Yep. Or a cyclone. Depends which way it goes around, apparently.
So when's that going to happen? Well, when can we do that?
Well, 1978.
We do it now. We're doing.
Hang on. can't hear him.
Yeah, so you can have it now
Yeah, that's right.
for under $1,000.
We can do it now.
For under $1,000, if you know the right Sparky.
But what car can do that? Give him the power out?
Well, I presume it's all the ones on the slide that we just showed us.
Yes.
Yeah, so anything that's Chinese probably is the rule of thumb.
Anything Chinese and Korean.
Yeah, Kias, the
Hyundais.
Hyundais, and not Tesla yet, but we're working on them.
And the Genesis, and that's
Geelys.
Yeah, they're all coming.
Genesis had a year ago. I saw quite out in the loop.
Did I turn it off?
So you can do it now, but it's only connecting 1 or 2 circuits in the house up to 20 amps. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So what about when?
Can I ask you what your average daily consumption is?
How much energy is you using?
About 15.
Well, that's less than 1 kilowatt per hour. So if you've got 3.5 kilowatts from the car, you can certainly do your house, but you can't turn everything on at once.
Right.
Now the trick is, if in conjunction with a house battery, you might be able to do a lot more.
Correct.
Because the house battery becomes the buffer, and the car becomes the filling the tank type thing. So it's a bit of a toilet system type arrangement. You fill up the tank slowly, or you fill up your house battery slowly with your car battery, and then when you need those things turned on and off, like the missus's hairdryer, then that house battery will pick up that load for the short amount of time.
Right. And look, I'm sorry to bang on about this, but
no, it's good. It's a good story. I like it. This is what we live for.
When will this restriction?
So the restriction you're thinking about is to do with the restrictions you're thinking about is to do with vehicle to grid, which is the DC path. So because it's got to be connected to the grid and you're putting energy into the grid, you have to be certified as a generator for the grid. But if we put zero export into the grid, then we're not a generator into the grid. So vehicle to home is where we want to be. We want to have zero export, is their common term.
Well, none of the electrons get into their grid.
Yeah, they're scared of our electrons.
Could I just elaborate on something that's been in the press recently, that the vehicle-to-grid cars in the ANU saved a blackout? I don't know whether people saw that recently, but it's been in
put
many
up on the...
different... Now that's a whole lot of bullshit. So I'll just explain that ANU
it was a little bit of bullshit. They did a little bit.
ANU got 51. ANU, Australian National University, got 51 Nissan Leafs, and they got about 20 of the wall-box Quasars and at $10,000 each. And both of those items are obsolete, but they were using them and they had them connected to the grid, and they're meant to do what's called FCAST, which is fast frequency support services, so frequency ancillary support services. And anyway, the transmission broke down in a tower in Victoria, knocked out 90,000 homes, and within a minute, though there 16 cars in Canberra responded to that change in frequency when it went down below 49.5 hertz, and so they turned on. The problem is that they were only allowed to discharge 5 kilowatts per phase, because that's the rule. So, if you've got vehicle to home, you've got 3.5, do you want to spend another $10,000 for another a kilowatt and a half? So not many people will do that. The other thing is that as soon as the event was over, 10 minutes later, they all reverted back to charge and drew more from the grid, so it didn't actually help much. So 16 cars and some cars got turned down. So I got 100 kilowatts. 100 kilowatts doesn't save 90,000 homes.
So. No, 10 maybe.
Okay.
I can make it a bit easier for some people to understand. If you think of it like a water tank, being a plumber as I am, if you've got a water tank in most states or territories in Australia, you want to connect that to your home, you have to have a one-way valve to make sure the water doesn't get back into the main water system.
Yeah.
In essence, to pollute, so you can't pollute the main water system.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same system,
power,
really, with the power. Although electrons are electrons, etc., there are obviously restrictions on that for whatever reasons there are, but it's really the same kind of process. That one-way valve is probably the
That's not quite relevant at the moment because there's only one-way charging cords and discharging cords, so you've got a separate cable for discharging as for charging. So there's no bi-directional cables at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Is that right? Okay.
So it's a separate cable, separate outlet on the car.
Right.
Okay, that makes more sense too.
Unless you've got trade at the moment, nobody keeps them anymore.
No, I don't have that.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so the idea of vehicle to home is you're kind of splitting the load. So you're turning the grid off for a lot of circuits and you just run it off the car. Whereas if the car... And what we want to do is automate that. So if the car kind of runs out of energy, it'll flip back to the grid. So they're trying to minimise the use of the grid in a vehicle to home situation. Okay. But you want to charge the car while you're generating solar, or instead of running electrons out of solar, right? So there'll be certain times during the day you want to charge the car, certain times you want to discharge the car, and that's the automation part. That's the clever stuff that you can do on your phone.
Oh, well, Hunter, it's not quite too clever.
Actually. Oh yeah, I know. There's this guy called Ewan that likes programming stuff as well.
It's just a relay that's when you plug in, it energizes the coil on the relay. Correct. And when you run out of battery or you use the setting, it drops back to the grid because the relay drops out. So,
yeah, it could be even simple as that. Yeah.
It is at the moment. It's going to be more complicated later when you want to do virtual power plants.
Yeah. So we're lucky here in the territory because we don't really have what's the grid charges called, Ewan? The different charges at different times of the day. Tariffs, different tariffs.
Time of use tariffs or peak demand.
Time of use tariffs. That's right. Yeah. So luckily we don't have time of use tariffs like at 6 o'clock at night when it's busy and stuff like that. But we do have a day-night tariff at the moment. But this stuff will come, right? And so when it does come, then we've got to be ready to have some programming there to use that to our advantage and not the grid's advantage, if that makes sense.
I'd like to think that this is revolutionary because the Chinese are going to be doing vehicle to grid, and they've said that they're going to make people do vehicle to grid through pricing signals. Now, that's quite revolutionary for a communist country to be doing time of use tariffs, but that's what they're going to do because, you can't have every car charging during peak time.
Correct. So in the meantime, one of the things I brought up was also how can we convert cars that don't have even vehicle to home. And it can be quite simple, but it needs a little bit of reverse engineering. We could use those words. But basically, we could use our 12-volt batteries in our cars because virtually our cars are dual battery systems, right? So for instance, I figured out that in my old Tesla that there was about 3,000 watts of DC to DC. So I could easily put a 2 kilowatt inverter in there and use that to run my vehicle to load. Now that's not a lot to run a house, but it would certainly run a lot of circuits and it would certainly slowly fill up my house battery the way I want it to, like Dan said, a tank or a toilet system. So we'd slowly fill up the toilet system, and then when my daughters all come home from school, which they do, and turn on all the air conditioners, that would slowly bring it down real fast. But hopefully warm up the house enough that it slows down enough, and it would keep that what we call equilibrium. It'll keep enough there. But if it does go down flat, then the mains would then cut back in, and it's all about minimal use of the mains, maximum use of what the energy we have we can store as well as produce. So this is where it's an ecosystem. It's a system that's not just cars, which I wanted really just to push along today. That it's something we've got to get our head around. Dan's right. We can use the analogy of water. That's really easy to think about because we can see water, but we can't see electrons. We can feel electrons, but if it gets in the wrong spot. But yeah, hopefully the idea is we want to. I guess the stage one is if we get all the cars in into the territory, we can legislate that those cars have to have at least 1,500 watts, 2,500 watts of output when needed. That's a really good kickstart to because we've already got the legalisation of the AS3000, the AS5777 standards for the electricians. So that's something we can actually run off straight away and get people used to it, and especially in a territory like ours where we've got virtually no grid. We've got lots of island grids that are unstable. It would be a very handy thing to have.
Very informative, Hunter. Thank you for going preparing that and delivering it.
That's good.
Could I ask Randall a question? I was wondering when you first introduced yourself and the three objectives that we're trying to achieve here for AEVA. The first one was membership. And you were suggesting that we go to the dealers and have something to hand out to prospective customers of where they could join AEVA. I've been discussing this with Hunter and the possibility of what we discussed this with the South Australian division and also the national division with Christopher Jones, and about a concept called a do-call register, where if there's an emergency, you can find out where people have got that can help you out, and that's the sort of thing that our membership could be a focus towards. So I was wondering if you would think it appropriate to, as well as sort of promote AEVA, promote the idea of this register where people can get help.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I mean, it's just adding an extra benefit to that initiative, really, isn't it? Yeah, so I mean, I'm agreeable to it. I don't know how the other committee members feel, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. Especially if you know, if that's an initiative which is already underway nationally, then we should be tapping into that.
Well, we're initiating it, we're sharing it with national, but you know, I have always proposed to national that it's an outback idea because of you know, that all electric vehicles in the Northern Territory should be capable of providing emergency power.
Yeah.
Would you think about getting it commercial in like after a certain amount of time though, Ewan? Would you think of making it commercialised, where not always get paid for it, but certainly would get recognised for it initially, and then later on get paid for it if you're sharing? Because I mean, that's why I kind of brought up about the virtual or the virtual grid, was that, you know, we're trying to get, if we don't have grid wires, what can we do in essence? Well, we could transport electrons from one point to another. If there is, what do you think about that? Is there a commercial viability there?
The commercial stuff should be that, you know, they have to join AEVA NT at their membership rate to be on the register. So that's one commercial.
That's good. I like that idea.
Okay. So,
I guess the reason why we thought that was the best, or that was a good initiative, was because unlike, you know, most other cities in Australia, in Darwin and Alice Springs, we can go see what 3 or 4 car dealers, and we would cover 90% of the EVs coming into the territory. So it's like an easy. It seems like a win-win, like an easy solution. You know, you don't have that same condensed list of dealers if you go to any other city. You know, you'd be going to hundreds of dealers, but in Alice and Darwin, we've just got to go and see 3 or 4 in both locations, and we kind of got the coverage that we're seeking. I
Do you kind of know what Hunter was mentioning as well, though, in regards to the lucrative nature or the compensating somebody for having their name on that list? Because once the numbers get out there, if somebody does have their name on the list of people to call,
Yeah.
and it happens to become more frequent, that person will be inundated with phone calls, or those people.
Yeah.
With people who need assistance in some way. So would there be some kind of limit over a certain amount of calls? That person needs to then be compensated for their time in some way. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
there is another revenue possibility as well. If you had this do call register of cars, you could put it on plug share, and you know, use so people can find out where they can get help, and charge people for providing that help.
Yeah, use a platform that's already there.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea as well.
Yeah, because you can put your plug, you got your house on plug share.
Talk. Yeah, I think you already got that ability to put your house on, like Dan said. So maybe, yeah, you could put in that addition for that house. I do have a vehicle if you need it or something, but I think boasting the register would be good though.
What about the assistance to somebody, not necessarily a vehicle, but like someone to call? Is that what we're talking about, like an AENT type thing? Is that what you're referring to?
I thought, are we talking about emergency power, or are we talking vehicle assist? I thought we were talking emergency power, like an emergency power database of EV owners, aren't we?
Well, I guess
Want to know about EVs? You're going to get the car.
yes, we are talking about emergency power, and we're talking about you know, similar to where you put your name down as an organ donor when you get your license, and you put your name down as willing to help out in emergencies. But you probably need to know where these are in Catherine or different places. So that's the only plug share thing.
Sorry, I was on a different tangent, my bad.
No, that's okay. Look, I think this is a great initiative, but I think we need to
see the details.
Yeah, we need to iron out the details offline outside the meeting, I think. Yeah. So we will take that on board, and probably follow up with some phone calls, I think.
Okay, I can put together some material for you if you like.
That'd be great. Yeah. All right. Well, we've just gone past 8. Is there anything else on the agenda, Justin?
No, not really. We're pretty like. Yeah, so sorry about the feedback there because it's computers. Yeah, it's just really like with the meetings and such, we don't really need to have it like as long as we like. Because there's be other segments where someone will talk about like conversion as such. Somebody won't
talk about EV in the news, which we have people in self-storage that already kind of
thing, but we can have somebody here one day talk about EV in the news or what's going on with the trends, what's going on in the territory and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it just doesn't matter. It runs a little shorter than time, you know. Queensland runs an extra 3 hours.
We're going to have plenty of meetings, so
that's right. Yeah, exactly. So
plenty of opportunities to cover other topics.
That's right, exactly. Fill gaps in if you need to have, but you know, like the guest speaker, like was Hunter being there for an hour or so, that filled in a lot of space. Yeah, thank you, Hunter, for that. Appreciate that, and you as well, Parsons. Yeah.
So, before we close the meeting, then, does anybody else wish to say anything or contribute anything?
Look, I could go on for hours, and I have been told I have been going on too long. But and there's actually a lot of wisdom in this small little room that we've got here. Pete Gordon, Ewan Parsons, and so feel free to especially Pete, like he's got years of knowledge, haven't you, Pete? He's not even listening to us. I bet he's watching the footy. Look, AVA has been around since '73. I don't know if there's any existing members from that time. Probably Pete's pretty close. But look, there is a world of information, especially on the website. Let me do a quick ad on that. There is a forum on the website that has stuff there for over 30 years or so that hopefully has been brought up and through to the new website. Obviously, we're always looking for members. We're always looking for ideas, so don't be afraid to. Even the silliest question is not silly because we've all got to get up to speed, and there's always new ideas coming through all the time. So that's the end of me. Thank you very much for putting up with my croaky voice. But yeah, anytime you're down in Alice, please pop in for a coffee. Be my pleasure.
Murray, I've got one question if you don't mind. Can I put my hand up?
Oh, sorry, go for it.
Finally turned up. When did Ricky come?
He just snuck in.
I snuck in. I've got a question for Murray from one Tesla owner to another. First of all, I was going to judo earlier on and I saw Noddy and his beautiful Model 3 at the traffic lights sitting there at the Stewart Highway in Coconut Grove. When it hit green, Jesus, he took off like a rocket. So it's just a matter of time before you get the speeding ticket. Just want to say congratulations to the committee and the members for their dedication and their effort in making an NTEV group. I'm sure someone said it already, but the dedication, commitment from the volunteers. Just want to say thank you because you've done a great job, and it's long overdue, but we're finally very proud that we've got a Northern Territory AEVA group. So give yourselves a big round of applause because it's a fantastic achievement. Well done. Just the question I've got for Murray very quickly, mate, from one Tesla owner to another, and also perhaps regarding EVs in general. Is it bad to slow charge a Tesla at home with a standard wall socket? And whenever, like mine's like 85% at the moment, and I've got that plugged in, it's 50% set, so it's still plugged in. It's not actually charging. With the longevity of the battery and EVs in general, is that a good thing to do? Because you hear YouTube videos, people saying ABC, always be charging. In your opinion, your experience, is it a good thing or should I not do it?
No, look, 10 amps is fine. It's probably the problem with 10 amps or level 1 is it's fairly inefficient to charge. So because you're trying to warm a pack as well as charge, or you're trying to cool a pack as well as charge, and sometimes the cooling can take up to 2,000 watts by itself. So usually I find the best rate of charge is probably between like 12 and 22 kilowatts. I know a lot of the Teslas now don't even do 22. My old girl does. So if you can, at least 7 kilowatts or 7,200 is a better rate to charge, only because you're getting a more efficient amount of energy into your battery, if that makes sense. Is your pack lithium polymer or lithium polymer LiPo 4 pack, or is it an older pack? What is it, a long range or a standard range?
It's a Model Y long range, dual motor.
Long range. So you do have the lithium polymer, lithium ion pack, which are tended to, that they do have that memory issue or that over 80% issue. So the car will actually tell you quite often, it'll say, if you don't charge it over 80%, right? So that's for day-to-day running. But the rule of thumb is if you need to go for a long drive and you need to use the whole pack, you charge it to full, but you try and use it straight away or within half an hour or an hour. So you're not leaving it full for days. That's when it can cause damage. And leaving it empty for days can cause damage. So if you're below, say, 5% or 10%, when your little gauge goes yellow, which I think is even 20% they do now. So your aim is to try and keep it from a daily runner between 20 and 80% with the long range. With the standard ranges, they're a little bit more immune, the LiPo 4 packs. So they're kind of getting around it. But to get your range good and to keep it good, just keep it between that 20 and 80, which the car will make you can set the car to do, So really, the idea is to trickle charge it is not a problem. It's just a little bit inefficient. You know, you're just not going to get your bang for your buck when you talk about power. The other thing something else to consider. Pete Gordon, you can help me anytime you want if you're listening. Even better if you can keep that percentage range, say between 40 and 60, for instance. You know, if you're happy to plug in the car more often. But to give you an idea, my old girl now is 10 years old. My Tesla is 10 years old in September. I've done a Tesla, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of the app that I use, but they do a recondition of the thing, and basically it's still sitting at about 91% of its expanded range. Again, not just trying to be nice to it. So yeah, I guess just the habits that we find is where you're at. What sort of Ricky? What sort of mileage would you do a day? Is it a big commute, or is it
70, 80 kilometers a day? You just go to work, and I work at Charles Darwin University, so we've got the chargers there.
Yeah.
Joseph for sorting that one. It's great. I haven't had to pay for fuel since I got the car.
It's lovely.
Fantastic.
So let me hint you this: once we get your Tesla upgraded with vehicle to home, why not take that energy from work and bring it home? Just saying.
Could I add something here?
Is that legal, Pete?
No, it's being done all the time.
It's being done all the time.
We call
have
it.
Pete, just like I mentioned on the AEVA chat, just the default is 80% max, but don't leave it over 90% overnight. And older Tesla long range is happy to between 10% to 85%.
Yeah.
Like for example, the Tessie.
But in Ricky's case, his daily commute's really short. Like, you know, you're probably charging it once a week, Ricky, or a little bit less to get to work, or maybe twice a week. Is that right?
I charge it every day.
Oh, you top it up every day. Yeah, even better. We might as well keep it up.
Exactly. The chargers are there. They're never fully booked, and then whenever I come home, I stick it in just a normal wall socket.
Oh, yeah.
I usually have 50%, so it might not drain much battery just sitting in the garage, but it's just because you hear about always be charging, so I don't want to overcharge it. But as long as
look, if you can live off 80% or 70% a day, you know, if easily, you know, not a problem. Just leave it set at 70%. The only time you ever change that level is when you go long range, and then what you try and do is just condition the car or start the car so it finishes charging. If you're going for a long trip that day, it finishes basically the moment you leave, or about half an hour before, because when you do a full charge with those batteries, it will do some leveling up at 100%. So that's quite a good thing to do for it, to give it that. If you do go to 100%, let it have an hour or so to level the cells, and then you'll see it, because it might sit at 99% for ages, and then it'll flick to 100. So yeah, just let it sit there and do that thing. But then when you do the long trip, you'll probably find you'll never top it up to 100 until the next night, when you've got to do an overnight again. So again, set the car up for success. The car finishes charging when you're ready to go. That's pretty well the rule of thumb I've got.
Can I add something for Ricky? What I describe, what you've got there is, if you go to Charles Darwin CDU and get a charge and then come home and power your house, you're setting up a virtual power line between your work and your home. And when that virtual power line becomes cheaper than your real power line, you'll use it. But there's one other thing that I want to add here is that this technology solves a very big problem of getting renewable power to renters that can't access their roof. And you know, the way that the Chinese are dropping the pricing, and what's going to happen is that renters and tenants are going to uptake electric vehicles in large quantities, and it's one way in which they can't have solar on their roof, but they can use the solar on other people's roofs.
Yeah, borrow it from other people. So, for instance, my guys here, I have about 40 kilowatts of solar on my shops here, and if I know I have had my staff have the odd electric car, and there's one there. He's got two behind him. Shannon had it, and that was part of working for me, and he gets free charging whenever he needs it, because as long as it's during the daytime and I have access solar all the time, why not? And then he gets to take it home or not have to worry about his charging off the grid at night time. So again, it's all about minimising your overheads, as well as minimising the effects on the car. But honestly, the Tesla's a tough old beast. It's really hard to kill them. You've got to be fully charging it, leaving it for 3 days, and then fully emptying it, leaving it for 3 days to really do some damage. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you, mate.
That's right. And again, I think that's the whole purpose of the group, is to try and get us, all in the same realm. And there's stuff there I don't know, and I'd love to hear. And sometimes it's the simple stuff that I forget that people ask the questions. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So don't be afraid, even if it's the silliest question. We're here to make it better, and I'll learn stuff too. So that's good.
Right, thanks once again, Hunter, for all the prep work you've done for the presentation and the presentation itself, and sharing your knowledge. I think we might wrap it up there. I think we're now 8:15, so we've been going for a while. So thanks for your attendance, everyone. We will draw our very first branch meeting to a close.
Yeah.
Yes, someone's just scored off.
And just a reminder, our next meeting as a branch meeting open to all members will be in September, and it will be the AGM, and I think it'll be the second Tuesday of the month, won't it?
It should be the fourth Tuesday.
Fourth Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Are there any committee members going to the national conference on the 1st of November down in Hobart?
I'm thinking about it.
Pete's got his finger up.
I've been urged by Hunter and others.
Yeah, I'm still in two minds. I try and make it every year, as you know, and yeah, it's. I'm just a little bit short of staff at the moment. I'm trying to recruit John as it is. He's nah.
I'm just thinking we should have an NT delegation there, that's all.
Yeah. So it's 50-50 for me still. I reckon Shannon should go though. He was whinging about me last year.
I don't think I can make it.
No, that was to
fully charged.
That was to fully charged.
Oh, mate, ours are better than fully charged, I'll tell you right now.
So I think, I don't think I'll be making it, actually. Louise just reminded me. We have some other obligations around
He's
that date.
60 on the 30th of October.
And you'll be washing
Was that all?
To be with him.
He'll be washing his hair that day.
He'd be on his third life crisis by now, wouldn't he?
That's right. That's
As
right.
far away as you can get, Hobart.
And he'll certainly be on one of his not at his own birthday party.
So anyway, next meeting we should put on the agenda the delegation to the national conference.
Indeed.
All right, well, we might talk about that.
Yeah, well, like you, Randall, I have a wife too that that can say no as well. Sorry, but we'll talk about it next meeting for sure.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
It's great to get this going now. I think so. We'll keep the momentum going, and yeah, the next time we all come together with all of our members will actually be the AGM. So there'll be a little bit of formality around it, but we'll make sure we have a guest speaker at the back half of the meeting like we did this time.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, just a quick one before we crash. Do we have another committee meeting in between now and the next meeting, or do we have a speaker for next meeting?
No, we have just a committee meeting in August, so just the 6 of us. So that's
right. It was every 2 months, wasn't it?
Wrap up some of these things that have arisen through this meeting, And then we'll have our next all members meeting in September.
Thank you.
Excellent. No worries. And I'll just put this on YouTube as well, eventually in a day or two, so you can review it as such.
Can you condense it down to 12 minutes? I don't watch anything longer than that.
Ricky can help us.
All right, mate, we're going to sign off. Thanks, Hunter. Thanks everyone else online. Thank you.
See you later.
Cheers.
Thanks for the tour, Hunter.